Joining me now is Jane Hume. She's here at the desk with us, and of course she is the Shadow Finance Minister. Good to see you.
You too,
First of all, we know yesterday many of your colleagues come out, they didn't like the budget even before they saw it. Any surprises here? Anything you're pleasantly surprised with, or is it all doom and gloom?
Well, there's a reason why my colleagues were speaking with one voice, and that's because this budget was a test for Labor. It was a test for Jim Chalmers as to whether he could genuinely deliver a budget that was going to address the issue that is number one to Australians right now, which is the cost of living crisis, and build upon the good economic and fiscal position that they inherited from the coalition government previously, and they failed on both accounts. And all you have to do is look at those numbers. Inflation is going up, unemployment is going up, power prices are going up, real wages are going down. These are promises that were critical promises that the Albanese government made during the election campaign. They said that you would feel the effect of a new Labor government in your bank account. Well, that's probably the one thing that they were right about, because I think Australians are feeling poorer. In fact, we've calculated that a typical Australian family will be $2,000 worse off this Christmas than they were at the May election.
Do you accept that a lot of these issues are outside of their control? Did you expect them in this budget to make direct payments, direct intervention?
Well, we didn't expect them to raise the white flag on these issues so early. Budgets are all about your policy priorities. And what they've done is said, well, your priorities, Australian public, which is cost of living crisis, is not Labor's priorities. Labor's priorities are different. And when you look at decisions that they made in things like, extending $2.2 billion to the suburban rail loop in Victoria, that in Melbourne, 5 weeks out from a state election, is that really Australians who are suffering a cost of living crisis right now, is that their priority?
Would you support extraordinary intervention in the gas market?
Well, extraordinary intervention, I'm not entirely sure exactly what that means. I think the most important thing you could do in the gas market is open up supply. And yet when we were in government, we saw opening of new gas fields and producers blocked time and time again by the Labor government. It's so important, if you're going to maintain energy prices, that you secure your baseload power. And it does seem to be that this transition to renewables, which we accept is inevitable, is happening too quickly and is causing price shocks.
So that's what the problem here is, the transition too quick to renewables.
Well, what is the problem? And I'd actually think that that's worth digging a little bit deeper. What is the problem that's causing energy prices to go up by 50%?
The Ukraine war, or do you accept that?
Well, electricity prices going up by 50% isn't necessarily caused by the Ukraine war. And let's face it, the Ukraine war was going on before the election. So it's not as if this is a surprise to the current Labor government.
Okay.
If they had an energy policy that brought new electricity, new power into the system, well, then there wouldn't be such a price shock. But, quite frankly, the private sector is making decisions based on a policy that they don't necessarily think is workable. We want to see a transition to net zero. We want to see a transition to renewables, but it's got to be done in a measured way that secures baseload power, or you're going to see price rises increase.
A price cap?
Well, let's see what the solution is that Labor are offering, because quite frankly, I don't think anybody wants to see energy prices rise by 50%, or electricity prices rise by 50%, gas prices rise by 40%. Australians are going to feel that in their hip pocket immediately.
Is that a good idea, though? Because I noticed this from your colleagues, you're really reluctant to say that a price cap is a good idea, or, a Liz Truss style freezing of energy prices. That kind of direct intervention, does that make you nervous?
Well, what we wanted to see when we were in government was new energy sources being brought online.
That was out. It's just supply side.
It's securing baseload power. That's certainly got to be your first port of call, isn't it? Bringing those new power sources online.
But that doesn't help now,
bringing. Well, it would. In fact, I think it would send a signal to the market if you said we are open for business for those new sources of baseload power.
Okay, we haven't seen the IR legislation. That'll be introduced tomorrow. We've heard from Jennifer Westcott. She's really concerned about it. What is your course of action here? Do you have any flex at all?
Well, flex is an interesting question. I think I'm concerned. I can understand why Jennifer would be concerned. However, to tell you the truth, I'm more concerned for small businesses. There was nothing for small business in this budget. All they've got ahead of them is an industrial relations nightmare If we were in charge, we would be reducing the red tape for small businesses, reducing the burdens that are placed upon them by unwieldy industrial relations reforms that essentially are going to slow down the economy, put a handbrake on growth.
Is there anything you like in this budget?
Well, there are things that we will support in this budget, certainly. We'll be supporting the childcare policy. Our 4.7 billion isn't.
You will now.
Well, we are supporting the childcare policy.
Families. You like it?
I didn't say we liked it. I didn't say that we liked it. Look, it's certainly not the policy that we would have introduced, and we actually think it's got some barnacles attached to it. It's got some problems. I mean, let's face it. One of the problems with childcare is not necessarily affordability; it's accessibility. And you go to places like, I was talking to my colleague Anne Webster, who's the member for Mallee. She was saying that there are 7 towns in the Mallee that don't have any childcare at all. There's already 7,000 places for childcare workers that can't be filled. So you can make it more affordable. That's terrific, but all you're doing is pushing up demand if that's the case. Where are these child care centres going to be built, and who's going to work in them to make sure that those Australian families are well taken care of, not just in the cities but in the regions as well. In fact, we saw scrapped from the budget some of the programs that were investing in childcare centres in regional towns and communities.
Okay, Jane Hume, thanks so much.
Great to be with you, Laura.